Hello and welcome back to Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore. Aiden, we've kind of got a changing of seasons going on today, obviously with college basketball finishing up. We're now into college baseball, MLB, Masters, MMA type stuff now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited for this episode. We're going to be covering a vast array of topics. I'm excited to get into college baseball. I was able to go to one of the UNC Duke games. I'm excited to cover the Masters, and I'm excited to cover UFC 314. So it's a big weekend for me personally. I know maybe most sports fans are like, stuff's ending right now. Baseball's boring, but like right now for me, this is prime sports season for me. I'm loving this right now, and I'm excited to jump into it with you. But first, let's start. Let's do a recap of the Final Four because it was pretty interesting. Starting off on Saturday, we had Florida versus Auburn, Houston versus Duke. Uh, did you want to cover anything from the Florida Auburn game?
I don't
I
really have
did.
much to say. We both
I,
missed this game.
yeah, I missed that one. I was at the UNC Duke game and also traveling, so that was a little bit tough. But watching like a rerun and seeing highlights. I gotta say, Walter Clayton Jr. Once again showed out, and my prediction in him like having a big game definitely showed on this one. Um, Overall, Florida really had the really kind of turned it up in that second half. They were kind of down by a good amount to Auburn. Going into halftime, it was 46-38. But Florida was absolutely able to just rally, scoring 41 points in that second half, leading to the win 79 73. To me, like a big story in this was that Florida was able to get a good amount of rebounds in pivotal moments and had very effective 3 point shooting. Auburn only shooting 28% at the 3 point, as compared to Florida's 38.1%. It was the real effective shooting and ball distribution by Walter Clayton Jr. that kind of helped lead Florida to the win. Um, and yeah, like turnovers in the game. There were some mistakes made by both teams, but overall they kind of kept the game like pretty clean in most parts. It was just in that second half, the shots really just weren't lying for Auburn, and just they weren't able to get off the shots that they needed to seal the win. But Florida second half rally leading to them in their national championship berth. But Houston versus Duke, that's one that we definitely have
Yeah.
a lot of opinions on. You want to start that one off?
Yeah, this was an interesting game. From the beginning, it kind of looked like Duke just kind of had the upper hand. There's been a lot of rhetoric this year around like, teams like playing fast, like more of a the kind of the rhetoric this season's been obviously efficient teams are going to be the better ones. Duh, if you're better at putting the ball in the basket, you're going to win. But they people took this further as almost like a I don't want to say like a rock paper scissors scenario, but like it was more like there was a lot of lines of logic around like a fast efficient team or a balanced like medium efficient team that plays fast is better than like a slow efficient team, but and that's kind of how it looked for the start of this, like Duke, who is kind of in the middle when it comes to pace, and they're very efficient, but they're kind of in the middle. And
Hmm.
it seemed like Houston was going to beat the allegations that a team that played that slow could be successful. But then Duke just kind of fell apart. There were times where Duke went 5 6 minutes with only one field goal, and then obviously like the collapse of great proportions down the stretch with not Jeremy Roach. Why am I blanking? It is. It's like
I
one of the few people who were left over from Duke's team last year missed a free throw. It's not Jared McCain. One second, I forget, but Duke missed several big free throws down the stretch, and then they had either an offensive penalty or they had some sort of offensive foul towards the end of the game, which kind of turned the tide. Where at that point it became free throws, and that's when Houston got their two free
Tyrese
throws, and then
Proctor.
Tyrese Proctor, that's who it is. Tyrese Proctor missed the front end of a 1-and-1, but I feel like that's not just it. There were several other opportunities for free throws where Duke just wasn't able to
I
convert.
don't think. I don't think that's what it was.
I don't think it
Tyrese
was Proctor.
Proctor. Yeah, Tyrese Proctor missed the 3-point jumper. Hang on. Let's see. Uh, who was it that missed the field goal? The free throw. Was it Common Malu?
Malawak missed a few, but I
Malawak.
don't think it was
Yeah, he
Malawak
ma-
who missed the final one.
he made a good amount of free throws near that back end. Uh, let's see.
Oh, excuse us while we fact check this. We're just curious for here's
Mm,
play by play.
yeah, I got the play-by-play right now. Uh,
But no, and then just here we go.
hang on a
All the way down
second.
to the bottom. Um,
Yeah, I think
Tyrese
it.
Proctor.
Yeah. I
Tyrese
was.
Proctor missed a free throw with 20 minutes or 20 seconds
Yeah,
left.
yeah. I think. Yeah, I got it right the first time.
And then on the rebound, Cooper Flag committed a foul, which
Hmm.
ultimately ended with two free throws for Juwan Roberts. Juwan Roberts. And then from there, it was they drew up a obviously Duke's final play. I'm not a big fan of it. In my opinion, it's not a high percentage look. A lot of Duke fans said that's the look they wanted. Yes, ultimately, I would have gone to Cooper Flag in that moment or Continental, but and yes, having um, Cooper Flag back down a defender is a good idea. But the turnaround jumper that rimmed off the front, I'm just not a big fan of. But yes, shot from there, and yes, the spin into the shot allowed him to create separation. But when you're falling away like that, a lot of shots you have a tendency to either overshoot it and put it off the back iron, or almost float it a little too much and then it knocks off front iron, which is ultimately what happened. I know that's what generated, I guess you could say, an open look. But I would have been much more a fan of having Flag block him down on the post and try and get like a layup. I know they were kind of pressed for time, but at that point they still had like a couple seconds to work with. I know they might have had a shot clock working against them if I remember correctly, but like they still had time. And I know there's a lot of trains of thought about this, like when it comes to having the last possession of a game. Do you use up the entire clock? Um, some teams like to go fast in case they miss, and then trust their defense if they end up making it. And I don't know where I stand on that, but I just know that would not have been the shot I would have wanted. It's who I would have wanted taking it, but that's not the shot. But thinking about it, with how Cooper Flag's been in the big moments, I know hindsight is 2020, but maybe that's not who you want taking it, considering. And this is taking nothing away from Cooper Flag, one of the best players in the country this year. Definitely could go to the draft if he wants to, but from what we've seen in the big moments this season, he's kind of really struggled
Hmm.
when it's come to game-ending plays. He's not been at his best, and that comes with age. Like he's still young. He's 20. He's what 18.
Yeah.
It's like he's still young. So those mistakes are gonna be. Have any takes on this?
I mean, like that. Just the collapse is a real story for me. Duke like absolutely had Houston dead to rights with like 2 minutes left in the game, but Houston going on like basically wasn't it like a 17-point run or something
They
like
scored
that?
11 points in the final 45 seconds.
Yeah, that's an absolute insane. I mean, that's basketball for you, but that's just like absolute like horrible game management by Duke. just really unable to like capitalize on the big moments and just I hate using this saying like maybe the lights were too bright, but just like the inexperience parts of Duke really starting to show in those moments, and I feel like this is a very great Duke team. There's a lot for them to like hold their hat on, and just like definitely a season wasn't a wash, but just Houston able to like out rebound and just give them the like Houston was able to take away the second chances from Duke and really just take control of that game in the final seconds. And in the final four, like that's usually kind of like how you lose. If you're unable to take capitalize on those big moments, you're bound to fail. And that's what we saw with Duke that night.
Yep, I don't really have much else to add. It was just kind of like lights too bright moment and just the collapse and Houston playing their cards perfectly within the last minute, knocking down the big shots when it mattered most.
Yeah.
Moving on to the national championship, this one's very similar to the Duke game, whereas like I kind of felt like obviously with like 10 minutes ago, I kind of felt like Houston had Florida dead to rights. But I wouldn't call it as a collapse as much as Florida woke up. They started hitting shots. They started getting better looks. I feel like the Florida coach did a better job of using his timeouts. I feel like the Florida coach went a lot of the game. Yeah, I know they won, this is just chalk at this point, but I feel like where Florida got into trouble in the tournament was their coach struggled on when to use his timeouts, which, as a young coach, that is a lot of what young coaches struggle with. Providence's Kim English really struggles with when to call timeouts because ultimately you want to show you have trust in their team that they'll fix it. Like
Hmm.
that is one big thing that I see a lot of young coaches talk about is they're like, these timeouts are precious in end of game scenario. Like being able to stop the clock when basketball, unlike other sports,
Hmm.
after a point is a running clock unless it's the final 2 minutes. Um, and I know like Kim English has talked about, he goes, I want to be able to trust my players to stem the bleeding. But I also support the camp where like, I know they don't want to, call a timeout too early where it's like, you don't want to make something out of nothing. Like, if a team goes on like a little mini run and you freak out and call a timeout to like stem the bleeding, but you can't call a timeout every single time the other team strings together 6 points. Like some cases that's two shots.
Yeah.
That's you missing that's them making a three, you missing a shot and then making another three. You can't call a timeout every time that happens. But I understand it. But at some point, it's all about striking a balance, and this is in no way related, but I feel like it's similar. It's like when college football coaches break out trick plays. If it works, you look like a genius. If it doesn't, you look like an idiot. I think it's similar with timeout usage. Like
Yeah.
you call them too early, you look like an idiot. You call them too late, you look like an idiot. But if you call them like just so happens like with the game flow, you call them perfectly, you look like a genius.
Hmm.
But ultimately down the stretch, I think it was just Florida was finally able to get into the lane. They were getting good looks. The contested twos and threes started falling. Um, a lot of I feel like this answered a lot of. I know Houston lost, but I feel like this answers a lot of questions about Houston. A lot of people thought that teams that slow wouldn't be able to keep up the pace. I think a lot of the really good teams that play slow or can play fast. It's just they prefer not to. Like Houston, when they came up against Duke in Florida, they looked fine with the pace. The pace looked okay. Yes, at times did they slow it down and they dictate it on their terms, but Houston doesn't mind getting out in transition after a turnover. They don't slow it up. They push the ball to the basket. I just think they realize they're at their best when they play slow. But similar to how we talked about Duke, I feel like the really good teams can play at any pace. Like, yes, you have your metrics, but like we saw towards the end of the game, Florida could play slow. Florida did really
Yeah.
well playing slow. And I think it's like, yes, there's metrics, and metrics are good at predicting stuff. But I think at the end of the day, like, you know, it comes down to the team that's just able to get, like you mentioned, the team that's just able to get it done. Like
Yeah.
regardless of metrics, like yes, tactics and stuff are great, but tactics only take you so far. It's the players out there that execute. Yes, The tactics help get the players in the right situation. But at the end of the day, it's are your players going to rise to the that's the big thing. Are your players going to rise to the occasion? And that's what happened with Florida. Houston just kind of fell apart at the end, and Florida's defense finally stepped up after being kind of very porous all game. So I think that's where it's just kind of Florida course corrected a little.
Yeah. For me, like in my when I was like kind of looking at this game, like I kind of got like glimpses of Florida versus Texas Tech a little bit, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And I know we didn't release a podcast because we do it weekly, but if we were able to make a prediction like in between like those two Final Four games and then the national championship, I think that would have been something that I would have highlighted. It's just the fact that Florida is also proven in the pivotal moments and in the moments where it looks like they're going to be like absolute, like kind of like dead to rights for a little while with not saying that there was like a situation like that in uh, I mean, there was kind of like situations like that in the second half. It wasn't like to the extent as it was against Texas Tech, but Florida just being able to slow, like kind of play their like any style of basketball and make the shots that they needed to make. And like that's what I feel like was the real story of this game. It was just Florida being able to like capitalize and utilize some of the adversity that they have faced in the tournament before to kind of fuel their win in this one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I remember seeing something, and I forget if it was like a talk or like a TikTok, where teams who win the national championship historically outside of I think UConn last year have faced adversity in at least one game where it's like a team that has been playing they're playing against a much lower seed, and the lower seed came out and was absolutely smacking them in the mouth for like a half or three quarters or even just a quarter of a game. It really came out like smacked them in the mouth. So, and that's kind of what we saw with Florida. We saw that with several times with Florida. It's like ultimately teams I feel like do better when they've, like you said, mentioned faced adversity. And in the tournament, their way of facing adversity is getting smacked in the mouth because you can't face adversity and take a loss in the tournament. Like you lose, it's done. Like, no adversity for you. The adversity is you're on the fucking flight home.
Yeah.
Like your season's over.
Hmm.
So I think it's valuable. Not that I'm saying you need to struggle early. I just think it can be helpful to like, you know, teams that I think what has been what Duke struggled with in the or the Houston game was that they really haven't been in those scenarios that much. Like, yes, they've been in close games before, but like the last close game they were in would probably be like Georgia Tech in the ACC tournament. But like much of the time throughout the regular season, there was not many times they faced adversity. I mean, yeah, NC State gave them a little bit of a scare. Carolina gave them a scare once or twice. Like, but the last time they really faced adversity was probably when I think, didn't they lose to Kentucky at the beginning of the season? And they lost to
Mm,
Kentucky and then they beat Auburn, I'm pretty
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I think that was really kind of and I'm not saying that like the ACC was bad. I'm just saying that I think that Duke team was just that dominant. And I feel like that Houston team caught them on a bad night. And by bad night, I mean a night where they collapsed. Because that
Yeah.
Duke team, oh boy, for like the Elite Eight moving like even into that Final Four game. That Duke team had motion twin. Like
Yeah.
that Duke team had motion and not. And when Duke was playing at their best, and I know this is true of probably any Final Four team, when Duke's at their best, I feel like if a Duke at 100% would have beaten a Florida at 100%. But hey, that's what ifs right now. So, anything else you want to add?
No.
What shall we move on to next? I mean, we've got baseball, we've
Ooh.
got MMA, we've got a lot of stuff. So, sorry, we know there wasn't much to touch on with college basketball. I feel like, a lot of stuff about it's already been kind of said and can be kind of drawn from it. Like, obviously, we know like the collapse. I feel like one final thing I'll say about this March Madness, I feel like the theme of this March Madness was collapse, was just collapse.
Yes.
So, where shall we proceed next?
Hmm. Hmm. You know what? I got it up. Let's jump into UFC 314. We never have the opportunity to jump this early
Early.
into MMA. So while we're still at the 20-minute mark, let's jump into let's mix it up. Let's go MMA. So we got UFC 314 this weekend in Miami. We got a really good card right now. UFC's starting to heat up again, and I'm in the fight mood right now. So going through the pay-per-view that uh, we have, there's some, well, first, there's some pretty solid prelims that you can watch on ESPN, ESPN Plus, and Disney Plus. One that's really sticking out to me right now. I want to talk about Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. This is going to be a featherweight fight. Um, Sean Woodson, absolutely solid uh, featherweight contender. Uh, he is 13-1 and has been on a like pretty solid streak so far in his UFC career. Going up against Dan Ige, who is has a really solid wrestling base, and it's just kind of like shaping up to be like a very solid prelim fight. With this one, looking at the tail of the tape, I think a big aspect of this is just going to be kind of like Dan Ige's like recent kind of slide. Lost to Diego Lopez and Murphy and unanimous decisions. If Dan Ige takes this fight to decision, I think it's like very likely that he's going to lose because of his last four fights, all of his losses have been from decisions, and he's only like win in these past four fights have been by knockout. So even though he has a solid wrestling base, he still has a like very solid striking uh, uh, abilities. One thing I like about Sean Woodson though, as a fighter, like for featherweight, he is like pretty tall, standing at 6'2". He's lanky as hell, and he's going to be able to use his like freestyle base a lot against Danny Ige, and I think he can keep Danny Ige at a distance, and that's why I kind of have Sean Woodson winning this fight. I feel like he's going to continue to rise up the ranks in featherweight, and we're going to kind of see the continual slide of Dan Ige. But going into the pay-per-view, there's one that I really want to talk about is Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. Bryce Mitchell, if you do not know, is a very controversial uh, personality in the
Is
UFC
he the
world right
racist
now.
one?
Yeah, he is. He's Bryce. I would go fishing with Hitler. Mitchell versus Gene Silva. Overall, like I'm going to say this, Bryce Mitchell has been kind of up and down lately. Like I'm gonna just say, looking in his like I'm just looking strictly at his career right now. I would take the podcast stuff aside. He's been a little bit inconsistent. Well, like he got a win after the Josh Emmett fight, but I could tell the Josh Emmett fight kind of like changed him mentally a little bit. Josh Mitchell just absolutely clocked him for a knockout. But Bryce Mitchell was able to come back with a win against Gracie. But I wasn't necessarily that impressed by that fight, mainly because Gracie is a horrible striker, and Bryce Mitchell is more efficient with the striker. His fighting style is mainly he is like a absolute like juggernaut striker that just kind of throws caution to the wind and just absolutely goes like country wild and like trying to throw haymakers. Gene Silva has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu base, and I feel like that's going to be a very big. It's going to be pretty tough for Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell has shown that he is like very proficient when it comes to like going up against these grappling people, but I just don't know if like I'm 50-50. Like part like his antics outside of the cage make me want to say that he's going to lose this one, but just
Yeah.
knowing that like this is another like wrestling kind of match makes me kind of lean a little bit towards Bryce Mitchell, but I just think he's a loose cannon in and out of the cage. So I just don't know if he's going to be like showing up for game time on this one. So I might have to go with Gene Silva for this one. But going into another featherweight, there's a lot of featherweight matchups in this card.
Yeah.
But going into another featherweight matchup, we got Yuri Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. This one is going to be rather interesting, in my opinion. We got Yuri Rodriguez, absolutely very solid, lanky dude, like very lanky striker. It's always like it's in the featherweight where we always like get these like you either get like a really short, stocky person that can like grapple, or you get like an absolute string bean, 140 pound, 5'11", 6 foot dude that can just absolutely like just strike and keep the fight at a distance. I'm a little bit up and down when it comes to this one. So when it, hang on, if I get all my, I want to make sure I'm getting this right. So pulling up my notes for this one for Yuri Rodriguez, he is, if I am getting this correct. So Patricio Pitbull is, God damn it, ESPN's not the best when it comes to having a user-friendly MMA page. But Patricio Pitbull, very he's coming over from the Bellator Championships, where he had a very like solid run, was able to get the belt in Bellator, and now he's coming over to the UFC. So this is his UFC debut, if I am not mistaken.
It is. I
Uh,
double checked that. His
yeah,
debut.
yeah, yeah. So it's Patricio Pitbull's UFC debut. I really liked his grappling a lot in Bellator, but I just don't know how that's going to be translating over to the UFC. Not saying that like Bellator is like completely inferior to the UFC, but the UFC is like the penultimate MMA uh, championship. So I think that transition, especially he is a seasoned vet, go with 36 wins and 7 losses. He's been around. When we got Yuri Rodriguez, who has been in the UFC for a little while and has shown some very like solid uh, performances, especially with his striking. I am probably going to be leaning more Yuri Rodriguez in this one, just because when it comes to featherweight, I like leaning on the side of the taller, more lanky fighters tend to kind of fare well just because they're able to use their height to their advantage. I'm not saying that like that's the be all end all, because most of the featherweight like champions are on the shorter end, but I just think in these, like in this one, I think Yuri Rodriguez can kind of is kind of like the match to Patricio Pitbull, just because this like freaky alien striker dude from the UFC is like going to go up against a UFC debut. Granted, a seasoned vet, but still a debut nonetheless. There's going to be some there's we're going to see if the moment is too big for Patricio Pitbull. I don't think it is, but I don't think that he's going to be necessarily faring well. So I got Yuri Rodriguez winning this one. Uh, Going into the lightweight bout for this one, Gareth, I know you've been excited for this one, and I'm excited to hear your input. We got Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett in a lightweight fight. Gareth, you know what? You've been talking about it a lot. What do you like? What are your opinions on Paddy Pimblett right now?
I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of, obviously some controversial stuff after the video from a few weeks ago surfaced. For those of you who don't know, there's a video of him a few weeks ago where he was doing like some sort of like, I don't think it was his camp quite yet, but he was doing a fight in like some like I guess one of his gyms,
Hmm.
and he was fighting someone, and he would did not let them tap. So that's apparently, I learned from Aiden that's not like, a very big sign of respect in UFC culture. It
Yeah.
wasn't a UFC event, but it's just not a good look. But based on what you've said, I like this matchup for Paddy Pimblett. You said usually with these lighter weight guys, it usually gives the advantage to the taller guy. But where I feel like this gives Paddy Pimblett an extra advantage is he's a very solid grappler. And I did my homework. I watched one of his fights, and I
Hmm.
will say he is able to roll with the punches with someone who's like a striker. He's able to
Yes.
roll with the punches and take it to the ground. There is one, I
Yes.
forget which fight did I watch. What was I talking to you about? It was the let me check. I can look back in my history foot real quick. Um let's
It
see,
wasn't
where is
Tony. It wasn't Tony Ferguson. Was it Levitt?
it? Was Yes, it was
Or
his last fight against Jordan Levitt, where it
nah,
was
that was
Paddy
his
Pimblett.
last fight was Green. Levitt was like 2022, I believe now. Yeah.
It was his fight against Levitt, and the way he's able to like I don't want to say turn a fight on his head like it wasn't, but it's just in the one thing I've noticed in several of his fights is like I said, he's able to roll with punches and just I don't outlast isn't the right word either, but he's able to wait till the fight's on his terms and then
Hmm.
take advantage. And
Hmm.
once the fight goes to the ground, I mean, obviously people are going to keep fighting, but he kind of had Levitt dead to rights the second the fight started going to the ground that second round. It was just from there, it was curtains. So I'm here
Yeah.
to hear what you say because you're a lot more well versed in this
So
one, but I feel like Patty's height, and in addition to his grappling, gives him kind of an advantage here. But
yeah,
I want to hear what you have to say.
that's a very like honestly very good take. The thing is when like I started watching Patty, I was very surprised with his grappling because traditionally English fighters, whether they're like uh, Ireland, Wales, England, just like the whole
British
Anglo,
Isles.
yeah, the British Isles fighting world is all about boxing. It's all about striking. Nobody wrestles there. It is not a big thing whatsoever. But Patty has surprisingly like good grappling for an Englishman, in my opinion. Um, and you see, the thing is, what like why I like this matchup for him, but also why I don't like this matchup for him is just Michael Chandler is just the biggest wild card, in my opinion. Is he's an enigma. I can't understand him. I can't get it. Like, he's a striker that I wouldn't say has the most technical striking. He can grapple, is not the best grappling. He'll when like if Patty gets on him and is like having like dominant control over him, Patty's going to have to make sure that he actually has him on complete lock because Michael Chandler is just prone to use his like all 156 pounds of him, of just pure muscle, just getting up and just falling on the ground and trying to like kill Patty, even though he might have him in like a submission or something like that. Because that has happened before, and Michael Chandler will probably do it again. My call. So, number one, I think Michael Chandler is going to do something illegal. He is going to either accidentally gouge Patty's eyes, he is going to either grab onto the cage, or he's going to hit below the like accidentally like strike Patty on like the nuts or something like that. That's just going to happen. Now, whether he gets punished for that, I don't know. And you might hear me say that, like say, oh, Michael Chandler isn't going to get punished for it. You might say like, oh, it's like, is this going to go Michael Chandler this way? Michael Chandler does this and it never really fucking works for him. And like honestly, like when he does it, I don't even think he does like I don't think he breaks the rules on purpose. I think he's filled with so much adrenaline. He's just in like I gotta freaking live right now and just does some like absolutely heinous shit.
Hits whatever he sees.
It's whatever he sees. Michael Chandler is the definition of I just see red man because bro will like bro could be winning a fight. Like there's been so many fights where he's like winning by like the numbers, and he just decides, nah, I gotta do it for the fans, and just absolutely gets in like the worst position ever, and then loses by submission. So do I think Michael Chandler is going to win? Nah, like I think Patty Pimblett might take this one because this is a good fight for Michael Chandler is just high enough of a lightweight to be like a really big name fight where like casuals can know both fighters. But I think Patty Pimblett, like Michael Chandler, just hasn't done anything like recently for me. Like, hang on, let me see. Let me pull up his because he was on hiatus for a while. I wouldn't say he was, but he has been waiting for that Conor McGregor fight. That's never going to happen, man. Bro sacrificed his career for the chance of fighting Conor McGregor, and it just never happened, and it's never going to happen. So he fought Dustin Poirier in 2022. 2 year gap to wait for McGregor. Never fought McGregor. McGregor always pulled out, and then he went up against Charles Oliveira, which, granted, very tough fight. Charles Oliveira is elite, and I cannot like emphasize that enough. But like, not like just it was a bad pull for Michael Chandler. I mean, even before that, his only win in like the past what 4 years has been Tony Ferguson, the guy who has been on who's in the Grandpa Fighting League right now, the Global Fight League, a league that doesn't even exist right now. That's where Tony Ferguson is because he lost like 10 straight fights and somehow gaslit Dana White after every single one of those fights. Like, nah, man, I got one more in me. I can do this.
Jeez.
Yo, give me David Goggins. I can train with him, and then I can do it. So
He's the one who's training with Goggins.
he was the one that did train with Goggins. Yeah, that he trained with Goggins in his fight with Patty Pimblett, which was probably one of the worst moves you can make because Tony Ferguson's whole thing was like he always had like a gas tank. He has like an unlimited gas tank.
Yeah.
You train with Goggins if you need a gas tank. You're just getting tired with David Goggins. You need to find ways to like get into those deep waters. Tony Ferguson is comfortable in deep waters. The problem is he sinks.
Yeah, he's safe.
Like you train if you're training with Goggins, it's because, oh, I'm afraid to get in those deep waters and see who I really am. Tony Ferguson doesn't have that problem.
Yeah,
Tony Ferguson's problem is he should probably avoid those.
yeah,
Tony Ferguson's problem is that he can't swim in those deep waters. He's fine going there, but he's got the gas tank, but he just is falling apart at the seams, and that's Michael Chandler's only win in these past 4 years. Hang on, let me make sure, because like I'm sorry, I don't, I yeah, so yeah, his last win that wasn't Tony Ferguson, because I'm sorry, I'm at the point where
it
I
doesn't
don't count
count.
I don't count a Tony Ferguson win anymore. And it pains me to
Beating up
say
on a
it.
grandpa's
Bro,
not.
bro, I love Tony Ferguson. And I hated to see him go the way he went. Like, y'all don't know about prime Tony Ferguson. He could have taken down Khabib Nurmagomedov, but he tripped over a cable, and that's what took him out of what was possibly the greatest fight that UFC has been looking for. Like that was, man, 20 like UFC before 2020 was a time to be alive. And like it pains me that Gareth, you missed that, because like that was crazy. But his last win before, like not counting Tony Ferguson, was Dan Hooker in 2021. So it has been 4 years since Michael Chandler has had a legit win in the UFC, in my opinion. He lost to Charles Oliveira in 2021, lost to Justin Gaethje in a unanimous decision, won against Tony Ferguson, lost against Dustin Poirier by submission, lost to Charles Oliveira again. I'll give him this. I credit him for that like legendary fifth round against Charles Oliveira, where he was like, Charles had him like literally, Charles was on his back like trying to submit him, and he would just stand up and go like, like he's Russell Crowe in Gladiator. But there's no, I'm sorry, like Michael Chandler, I love you, kind of washed. Patty Pimblett, I think, has this one, but Patty Pimblett, if you fuck this up, I don't want to see, I don't want to see any Patty Pimblett shit again if he fucking loses to Michael Chandler. You're losing, like, okay, let me try to put this in college football terms. So like, Uh, Patty Pimblett is like the new team that is like, a lot of people think is a little bit unproven, but like good record. I'll say they're like a, let's say they're, I'm thinking Indiana, you know, like up and coming right now, like historically maybe from a place that didn't like know football as well. So like, okay, so Patty Pimblett is like Indiana. Michael Chandler, granted, impressive resume, like good. He's like a mid-tier SEC team that has just fallen off. Let's say he's like a freaking Michael Chandler's Florida State.
Yeah,
Michael Chandler's Florida State. Like, love the history. And you know what? Like, always shows up for a fight. But like, bro has not had a legit win since like freaking 2021.
yeah,
So, so Michael Chandler's the FSU. Patty Pimblett, I'll say, is like, he's either Indiana or I'll say, yeah, he's like an Indiana in my opinion. If you know both like MMA and football like really well, and you think my analogy is like off, you can call me out on this one. This is just me going off the dome on this one. But Patty Pimblett, by all metrics, should win this one, but just for some reason, I'm always thinking Michael Chandler is going to be on some Michael Chandler shit right now. So I'm putting my money on Patty on this one, but I'm putting the money that I'm willing to lose, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that leads us to the featherweight main event title fight. We got Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. I'm really excited for this one. So for those who have missed the past episodes where I've kind of explained the politics of what has been conspiring in the featherweight division, allow me to give a brief summary of how we got this fight. So originally, Ilya Tapora was the featherweight champion, beat Alexander Volkanovski, beat Max Holloway, probably was going to fight Diego Lopez. But uh, Ilya Tapora has decided to move from the featherweight to the lightweight division, which means he absolutely vacated his title, meaning the title is now being fought by these two. This is a very unprecedented move because usually when you vacate a title, it's because you're going to another like a heavier division, so you can like go for a shot of the championship immediately. But Ilya Tapora just vacated his title and he's not fighting Islam Makhachev. He's now just a regular lightweight fighter with no belt right now, which is an absolute ballsy move. But now the featherweight title is up for grabs, and we don't know who Ilya Tapora is going to be fighting. I assume there might be an announcement soon. I don't know 100%, so let me see if anything has been released yet. Ilya Tapora. Um,
Can't believe he the fucking title.
so
To go down, nonetheless.
hmm? No, he went up.
I Oh, he went up. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. He was featherweight, so he's decided to bulk up to go to lightweight,
Yeah.
which of all the divisions, lightweight is one of the most stacked divisions. Like Michael Chandler and Patty Piblet aside, like Michael Chandler is the lower end of a very stacked division. We're going to see this week, like Patty Pimblett is on fraud check alert. If he wins this one, we know he's not a fraud. If he loses
Yeah.
this one, he's a fraud. But they got freaking Charles Oliveira. They got Islam Makhachev. They got Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. Just absolute stacked division, like historically stacked division. It's always been. But Ilya Tapora just vacated his featherweight title only after one title defense against Max Holloway. And now it's up in the air. And Volkanovski, who, for all intents and purposes, has been the featherweight goat of this decade, uh, and of the past couple years, there's a couple, like you can make the argument for like a couple other people, but I won't get into that now. It's just Alexander Volkanovski. He's good. Very like old, but he's good. Diego Lopez. He's on the up right now. To me, this had like Diego Lopez has a lot of like what Dana White like really looks for in a champion. Like he uh, is super like active, always willing to fight, really not going to like push for like big money, but he's just been on an absolute streak lately, beating Danny Ige, Brian Ortega, just good unanimous decisions, like getting sound decisions. And he has a very solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like base, elite level grappling. And Alexander Volkanovski, he is a slugfest, like waiting to happen. Just absolutely ready to bring it down. Like he can fight standing up, he can fight standing down. he's a striker, that's what they say, but he has also some very solid grappling that I do like. For a while, when Alexander Volkanovski went from featherweight to lightweight to try to be double champ, he did take Islam Makhachev to like the brink in his first fight. Unfortunately, in the second matchup between Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev, Islam just kind of like wiped the floor with him on the second fight. So after that fight, Alexander Volkanovski kind of fell off a little bit, losing to Ilya Tapora. But now, like, we were starting to think, like, okay, this is like the end of Volkanovski. Like, he's probably going to be retiring soon. But now he has an opportunity to get back into the featherweight championship and start a whole new run at champion. I don't think if he wins this one, I don't think it's going to be for that long because I don't think he has that much left in him. But very interesting on what are the implications of Alexander Volkanovski's legacy if he wins this one. Because if he wins this one, it's going to be like everyone's going to say it's because Ilya Tapora left. It's because he left. But if he wins, he's still going to be he's going to have like I don't know how many championship fights in this division. Like I'd have to count them out. So for Volkanovski, his history of championships in the featherweight division or just lightweight, like his whole, so he beat Jose Aldo to challenge Max Holloway for the belt. He beat Max Holloway once, twice. Well, he beat him three times. But so Max Holloway, Brian Ortega, Chan Sung Jun, Max Holloway again, completely cleared out the division. He had to like the division was like completely wiped out under him. He had to fight Max Holloway three times because that was the only person that was good enough to even challenge him. All three of those fights were very solid fights. So in the first one, it was a unanimous decision. In the second one, it was a split decision. And then in the third one, it was another unanimous decision. Very classic fights. Like, I respect both of these fighters a lot. But then we saw the fight against Islam Makhachev, where this was the unanimous decision that was very controversial because a lot of people thought that Volkanovski won that fight. He then comes back to the featherweight division and beats Yuri Rodriguez. So that's for one, two, three, four, five title defenses in the featherweight division alone, but a total of one, two, three, four, five, six, seven championship fights in general. Then Alexander Volkanovski is then asked to go back up to lightweight on short notice to fight Islam Makhachev again. And this is the one that kind of like goes and like he's knocked out by Islam Makhachev, which is very unusual because under my perception, like Islam Makhachev was never really like a very solid striker, but like he was able to basically knock him out round one. It was a very disappointing fight, like just because you saw like somebody that was like perceived to be a goat and like had his second shot at like history again, being a double champ, but just unable to capitalize on it. And this eventually led us to his fight with Ilya Tapora, where he was knocked out again. Like this was like very like odd stuff because Ilya Tapora, like granted, I will give him he is a very elite striker, but Alexander Volkanovski for a while was just seen as the guy you can't like fully kill. You can't knock him out. He's like the toughest like SOB out there. But that has really kind of led us to like really wonder whether like what's the legacy of Volkanovski going to be. And that's kind of like, okay, so bringing all that, I'm going to bring it into this fight right here. So we got Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez, very solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Alexander Volkanovski, very solid striker. Also has started to deteriorate a little bit in the striking game, which is leading me to wonder whether Alexander Volkanovski has what it takes to like grapple with Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez is standing at 5'11". Volkanovski is at a 5'6" right now. Like I've said before, the thing is in this division, I do sometimes always like cater towards the taller fighter, and I just there's something about this right now where I'm feeling Diego Lopez, but like my heart is honestly telling me right now that Alexander Volkanovski has what it takes to win this one. But if I want to say what like the smart money is, I'd have to say it's uh, Diego Lopez, just because I feel like it's his time. I think Alexander Volkanovski has started to like kind of go down a little bit. Do I want Alexander Volkanovski to win? Kind of, just because he's like he's been so important to the featherweight division. But I do think this is going to be like the beginning of the passing of a guard, which is why I have Diego Lopez winning this fight and winning getting the featherweight title. So yeah, that was my UFC 314 breakdown. Very excited for these fights. And Gareth has been experiencing some technical difficulties, but yeah, he should be joining us soon. And yeah.
All right, welcome back in. Post some technical difficulties, but we're back and we're good. Starting off, we're gonna jump into some college baseball. There's a lot went on this week. We had some people who were at. We had Aiden who was at the Carolina game. I was at the Red Sox game. So a little bit to cover on under baseball when it comes to MLB and college. So I'll let you take it away with the UNC Duke series.
Alrighty, so UNC won their series against Duke 2-1. UNC started off the series winning Thursday 4-3. And then on Friday, they lost to Duke 9-5, which brought us into Saturday, the game that I was able to go to for the most part. I had to leave later on, but UNC closed out the series with a win over Duke, 8-7 in 14 innings. That game was really fun to be at. I liked it a lot. Um, First off, in the first inning, Luke Stevenson got a home run in the first inning, making it, I believe, that started off the game at 2-0. Eventually, Duke came back with Garcia having a two-run home run in the second inning. And in the fourth inning, pitcher Hugh had a little bit of a collapse, allowing two runs with two errors that kind of ended the inning. But with that, the Heels were really able to rally, and like it was back and forth for a little while. UNC was like on top for going into like the seventh and eighth inning. Going into the ninth inning, Duke was able to tie it up at 7 apiece each. And for extra innings, it just kept on going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until UNC was able to pull away at the bottom of the 14th, uh, sealing the game 8-7. Overall, good performance by the Tar Heels. They were able to win what I thought was a very important series. It was one that I feel like with rivalry, I feel like it's important to win these conference matchups, and like overall, just it was a fun experience to be at, and just I'm happy to see like the Heels kind of being on like more of an upward trajectory after a rocky start in conference play.
Yep. Similarly, and that's a big one. That was a hot Duke team that had just come off of two series upsets of NC State and I believe Wake Forest before that. So they'd kind of been on a tear lately. Um, so NC State had a decent series this weekend. They had a series against UVA, which I feel like this was a series they needed to go right, and it did. It didn't have the greatest start. Obviously, first game, NC State started off with a 4-2 lead over UVA. But then it just kind of fell apart. I honestly felt like they had the starting pitcher Dom Fritton in for a little too long. You could tell like his grip and just not his composure, but like his grip. I felt he was getting tired, and he just kind of fell apart. And then the sixth and the seventh, Virginia just went on a flurry, and they ballooned out to an 8-4 lead. Bottom of the ninth, NC State had a chance. I thought they were going to pull it back in the bottom of the ninth for the first game. When the literal first pitch of the bottom of the ninth went for a home run, and the first pitch to the next batter at bat went for another home run, and I was like, shit, they may do it. Unfortunately, I was wrong. The next day, this is the day I was at the Red Sox game, but I was able to watch this game because the Red Sox game was on a rain delay. NC State played Virginia again. They went down 1-0, but then they kind of scored 6 unanswered runs and went on to win 9-2. DeCrisio just has been an absolute extra base machine as of lately. He's either hitting home runs or doubles, and DeCrisio is a player that we normally see out of an Avent style NC State team. Like this NC State team's kind of had to get creative with how they're winning. They lead the ACC in successful bunts, not just sacrifice bunts, but in bunts where both the bunter and the base runner end up on base safe. They lead the ACC in that and the top 10 in the nation with that. So they've been kind of running this small ball style lineup. But the series against Virginia was just kind of a breath of fresh air, and typically how NC State Avent teams usually play, like big bats, decent extra base hits, doubles, triples, home runs. So
You got the
it
faint
was
voice.
is it better
No.
now?
Yes.
Okay. Should I just start over with game two?
Yes.
So game two, obviously, went a little better for State. They went down 1-0, but then scored 6 unanswered runs, winning 9-2. I had been talking about this previously on last week's episode, but DeCrisio's kind of been an extra base hit machine. He's very much he would have fit in to previous NC State teams very well. Like I've talked about it on here before, NC State's kind of had to go to like a small ball style lineup, a lot of bunting, a lot of stealing. And NC State actually leads the conference in successful bunts, not just sack bunts, but being able to lay down a bunt and getting the not only the base runner safe, but also the buntee safe on first. But this series with Virginia was kind of like a flashback to Avent teams of old, where it's like heavy sluggers like doubles, triples, home runs, and then came Sunday, and we've talked about a lot of choke jobs recently, and let me just say this. So the game didn't start out too great for NC State. It was tied 2-2. Then Virginia went up 6-2. Then Virginia went up 8-2. It was 8-2 in the bottom of the seventh. So what does Virginia decide's the greatest idea at that point? Give up a grand slam. Then bottom of the ninth. No, not 2. I went back and looked. It was a 3-run shot instead, but still.
Bro.
Yeah, it's still bad. Still very, very, very bad.
Mm-hmm.
So what does Virginia decide to do? Give up a 3-1 shot in the bottom of the ninth. So they put in a closer, and closers, I honestly think closers are one of the hardest positions to play in sports. I think Aiden and I could do a whole episode on what we think are some of the hardest positions to play in sports, and I think closing pitcher is one of them because there's a lot of mental.
But that's an episode for the summer.
That is an episode for the summer, and we don't have much to talk about. Um, but it's Virginia went to the same closer that they went to on Friday night. And outside of the 2 home runs on back-to-back pitches he gave up in the bottom of the ninth on Friday, he was a decent closer. Now, granted, judging by how the bottom of the ninth went on Friday, maybe they should have gone with someone else before this dude gave up a grand slam in the seventh and they left him in. But bottom of the ninth, obviously, you kind of know what happened. NC State was able to get 2 base runners on, and then Josh Hogue just absolutely fucking crushed a ball, like dead center. UVA outfielder tried to get it, wasn't able to get it, but decent game for NC State. Like again, Decrecio, several extra base hits in this game, including a home run. Catcher Lanfear also had a home run. He's been a home run machine this year. And then of course, we've kind of developed him along, and he hasn't always been this way. But Josh Hogue hitting another homer. It had been a few games, but he's been hitting a lot. And then finally tonight, an in-state rivalry, NC State gets the 4-1 win over ECU. ECU only had 2 hits. Similar to Friday against Virginia, you're going to hear this name a lot. First pitch of the game, Josh Hogue went yard on the first pitch. So you could kind of tell what night it was for ECU. But again, I've talked about this pitcher on here before, and I'm really impressed with how he did tonight. Anderson Nance. He's a freshman who was kind of unproven the other week, and they put him in the Duke series. First 3 pitches were all over 100 miles an hour. And everyone was like, okay, shit. He's kind of the real deal. He's currently 5-1 on the season. I think he's been in a lot of midweek games, but honestly, I think he could be a good, honestly, Sunday starter for us when it comes to ACC play. I know I'd like to see him be developed a little more before we start handing over the reins to him. And then obviously, our nationally top 5 ranked closer, Jacob Duden, came into the game on 8 pitches in the bottom of the ninth, 2 strikeouts, was robbed of an immaculate inning when the defense caught the foul tip on the second strike. But hey, all that matters is we got the win. Individual stats is a different thing. So getting the win over ECU is great after we went 0-2 against them last year. But no, that's good. So, do we want to cover any MLB, or should I just highlight the game I was at?
You can highlight the game that you were at.
All right. So speaking of colossal just fuck ups and fall aparts, we have yet another one. So I was at the I'm not going to cover the entire Red Sox series against the Cardinals because Aiden and I aren't really prepared to talk about MLB right now. We haven't done as much research as I've watched the games, but I haven't looked back at the stats and fully digested it. So game, obviously rained out on Saturday, so I went back. It was good. Cardinals jumped out to an early lead, but then mid about the 4th inning, we've been mentioned on here, Rafael Devers, the DH, now the DH for the Red Sox after the whole debacle with third base and Alex Bregman. So we talked about that, and even Aiden said Alex Bregman is our third baseman. So
He is.
Rafael Devers got his first home run of the year. He is no longer 0 for 20 at bat, so he is now doing well. And hey, in the second game, I know I said I wasn't going to mention the other game. The second game of the doubleheader on Saturday, he went 5 for 5 at the plate. So he's really kind of finding his stride. But what I want to talk about is the end of this game. Like I said before, closers have a really hard job. So the Cardinals put in their closer, right, at the bottom of the ninth. They're up 2 runs. They just hit two really nice extra base hits to knock in 2 runs in the top of the ninth. Up comes the Red Sox offense. They put in the closer. Aiden, what do you think my man's does next? Without even registering an out. Walks the bases full.
Damn.
He threw 2 strikes. He threw 2 strikes in that time.
Damn.
He threw 12 balls and 2 strikes.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, he, He strikes out a batter. Okay. But then dude proceeds to walk in 2 runs. Not one. Walks in 2 runs.
Damn.
Then obviously the game goes to extras, and then who comes to the rescue? With the leading hitter in the MLB right now in terms of batting average, batting over 50%, Weiler Abreu knocks in an extra base go-ahead run to bring home Jaron Duran in for the win. So that was a nice, fun game to be at. Great atmosphere as always in Fenway. Hopefully, we'll get Aiden up here, bring him to Fenway, and we'll do like a full-on vlog feature when we're there.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
Test some food, maybe doubleheader. Tickets are cheap, so who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
But I think it's Aiden actually wants to touch on some Masters right now, so we'll go to that for right now.
Alrighty. So it's the best time of the year to be a golf fan right now. It is the Masters weekend, my personal favorite tournament, a lot of people's personal favorite tournament. This is kind of like golf Super Bowl, in my opinion. It's the kickoff to the major season. We got the Masters. For those of you who don't know, it goes the Masters this month. Next month, it will be the PGA Championship. Then we will have the US Open, and then the Open are also known as the British Open. But the Masters this year, we have Scotty Scheffler defending. He won last year, won his green jacket. And I just wanted to go through a couple of standout names that I think have a big weekend lined up for them. Scotty Scheffler, of course, defending the green jacket. Uh, Augusta is one of those places where if you have experience playing there, you're primed to like repeat. And we've seen that, like even Tiger Woods in 2019, that was the first Masters I was able to go to. Actually, the only one I was able to go on Wednesday for the par three tournament. Absolute one of my favorite sports memories of all time. But I was technically there the week of Tiger Woods' last major win, so that's a fun memory that I'll always have. But it's one of those courses where if you have more experience, like the more experienced people just know the course. They know how the greens run. They know what to expect, and it's it's I like Scotty Scheffler's chances. But one player I think that can really get over the hump and probably bring home a jacket is going to be Bryson DeChambeau. If you don't know him, this is like the face of the PGA right now. Absolutely goes yard with it, like big hitter. He's like a folk hero in golf right now. Just absolute big muscle man that can whack the hell out of a ball. I think he can drive basically 400 yards. He can drive the distance anywhere. And I really like him to make a very big run this weekend. And last year he was tied for sixth, had a really good appearance in the majors, except the Open. I believe he did not make the cut, but I don't know. I'm feeling something in the air right now for Bryson DeChambeau. So I got to put him on watch. Let's see, who else do I have? Um, Shane Lowry is an Irish golfer I really like a lot. I remember uh, he had a. Did he win the Open or I think he might have won the. I remember one year he was like really like came out of nowhere and made like some pretty big runs in the majors. Let me see. Let me fact check to see. Shane Lowry major wins. Alrighty. I do not believe he has a major win yet, but I think he's always a golfer that you need to keep your eye on. Hideki Matsuyama is also coming back. Right now, he is sixth in the rankings. He won the Masters back in 2021, I believe. He like I said, experience usually wins. You kind of got to find that nice window of where you're young, but you still have a good amount of experience at age 33. I think you got to be keeping your eyes on him. Uh, if one person that if I think might be due for a Masters win is Jordan Spieth. His last Masters win was 2015, I believe, so 10 years ago. He's still very young. When he won the Masters, he was what? Like, he was like extremely young. I believe he was like 2 years removed of getting out of Texas, UT Austin, where he absolutely like, tore it up in the collegiate scene and won the John Deere Classic to secure his first Masters berth, and he started off in his like early major run, like he was like absolutely on fire, but has kind of like tapered off a little bit. I think he might be due for a little bit of that Augusta magic. Um, I like him a lot. I never think you should count him out. Unfortunately, right now he is ranked 61st in the golf world this year. But one thing that has to be noted is a lot of players sometimes don't like play as much before the Masters because they want to like either get ready for it specifically, or you just kind of forego some of the smaller tournaments. But Jordan Spieth has kind of fallen off over the past couple of years, but one thing that I'll always remember is he was due for in his return to the Masters after winning his first green jacket. He was absolutely like tearing it up for the first 3 days, and I believe it was on Amen Corner, which is holes 11, 12, and 13, which are some of the like hardest holes in golf, which is why it's garnered its name Amen Corner, because if you can like make it out with pars, like you should say a prayer, because like some of the hardest holes he just absolutely kind of fell apart and just fell in the rankings. He was like, well, fell in the placement. He was like ahead. He was due to win that tournament, but just absolutely fell apart. I remember watching it when I was like, I think I was 14. And I was just like, I gotta turn this off right now because I felt bad. Like there's times like when I was like in high school and like in middle school, I was really really into golf, but like also playing golf. I played a lot more than I do now, but when I played, I would always remember that I would get like super nervous and like I would always like get antsy like with like my I think we had like a youth PGA club that I was a part of, and I would just like always get nervous. But then I just saw him like absolutely fall apart, and I was like, oh my gosh, this like I never related to a pro athlete more because he shoot a shot on 12, get in the water, really like uh, takes his drop, shoot it into the water again, and I was just like, why do they keep on showing this? like I was like, why are the cameras on him? This man is falling apart right now. Like it gets absolutely brutal. I think he fell like drastically in the rankings on that one, but I feel like with like his experience, he's still 31 right now. Like being 10 years removed from your last Masters win and you're 31, I think it might be time like he makes a little bit of a comeback. Let's see, going through uh, other names that I feel like might be Fun to watch. I'm going to give a shout out to my uncle right now. His favorite golfer is Fred Couples. Do I think Freddie Couples has a chance of winning? No. But one thing about the Masters is if you win the tournament, you have a life, like for life, you're allowed to play in that tournament. So I always like seeing some of the older players get to play. Freddie Couples is at 65 right now. He's in the senior league, and I just always like taking the opportunity to like see some of the legends of the game play. Tiger Woods, unfortunately, will not be playing this year as he has had surgery done on his Achilles, so he will not be playing. But in recent news, he has signed a deal with Augusta where he will be designing a nine-hole par three uh, course affiliated with Augusta that will be more open to, I think he was saying like people of the area are like a little bit like not public, but it's going to be kind of lowering the kind of like allowing more people around like the Augusta, Georgia area the opportunity to play in one of the like a course that's affiliated with one of the most prestigious golf courses. So I think that's cool. Let's see if I could like find other legends that I would just kind of keep my eye on. I always like watching Phil Mickelson play. Like Phil Mickelson, he's a class act dude. I think like uh, my dad made me a fan of him. Just absolute. Uh, he's a gambling son of a bitch. I'll give him that. Like he's always like either like making bets with like fans in attendance. He gets in trouble for that and swings left-handed, and I think that's I always like seeing the left-handed swingers play just because uh, I think in like some of the holes, like hole, let me see if I can get this right. I think it was hole nine, where like left-handed swingers kind of have a little bit of an advantage. I kind of like that. And he's not that he's like left-handed naturally. He trained himself to like swing left-handed because he knows it like gives him an advantage. He started like his dad instilled that in him. And if I could give another golfer that I just like to watch, I don't think they might have a shot at winning. I got to give it to my personal childhood, one of my personal childhood favorite golfers, Bubba Watson. I like him a lot. Just absolute Southern character. Went to UGA and just always. I remember fondly his first win in the Masters when on sudden death on hole 11, hole 10. Uh, it was either hole 10 or hole 11 where he was off in the woods and like had an like absolute impossible shot, hooked it all the way around the trees and landed it on the green. Like I remember seeing that, and that was like the first Masters win that uh, I saw, like that I can remember. And I've always kind of liked him. And I whenever like the Masters come around, I always like seeing him play. And yeah. I guess maybe one more. Uh, let's see if I can get one more player that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, whether I think they're going to win or whether I just kind of personally like them. Let's see. I would have to say, oh shit, I would have to say uh, a another important player to highlight would be Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau, I do believe for a while they kind of had beef with each other. Uh, like
Big golf.
I wasn't too caught up on that, but I do know they had like a personal like match between each other. I think they did. And like they kind of like were at each other's throats for a little while. I think that kind of rivalry settled off. But like, if the stars align, I would love to see on on Sunday the final tee off being Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau. I feel like the drama, the back and forth, I feel like that would be absolutely legendary, and I feel like that would be very entertaining to watch. So that would be my overview of the Masters. I honestly can't wait to watch it and hopefully break it down on the podcast and just talk about everything that happened. Obviously, there will also be there's a plethora of amateur players that will be playing. Amateur players are really like kind of hit or miss, but I do find them uh, fun to watch because usually like there's always like a good storyline coming out of it. Like whether they play well or whether they get cut the first day, it's always kind of fun to see. So I'll do a full breakdown next week along with my breakdown of UFC 314. This is a big weekend for me, so I'm loving it. But yeah, that covers my preview of the Masters.
Definitely. And I don't know as much about golf, but like there's definitely people like if golf's on, I like to watch obviously Phil Mickelson's one where that's like my dad's a big fan of him. Jordan Spieth is also very fun to watch.
Hmm.
But you put me on to Bubba Watson for that one Masters. Wasn't that against
Yeah.
Sergio Garcia? The I know Sergio Garcia went into a sudden death recent in like by recent Masters I mean last 15 years. So
Yeah. Okay. Man, I would need to remember this one.
I know
Okay,
did
so
Sergio
so he Sergio Garcia did win, I think, eventually. Hang on.
he
Uh,
won something because it was like we had like there was someone did like a talk about him being like the lovable he was the lovable loser at one point, but then he finally just like had some like comeback win. I don't know if it was the Masters, but I know it was some one of the major four championships. I'm pretty sure. He's always another fun one to watch that I like to watch is Sergio Garcia.
yeah, so Sergio Garcia won in 2017. That was a sudden death match against Justin Rose. I will say this. I don't think Sergio Garcia is a lovable loser. I think he's kind of a European dick sometimes. Like,
Yeah, I didn't say that. I don't
bro,
agree that he's a
yeah.
lovable loser, but everyone that I was like there was like a talk where they called him like the lovable loser, and like everyone we were sitting there around the like the table so that our coach like the talk we were giving was like this guy doesn't seem that lovable if we're being completely honest. He kind of sounds like a Euro snob.
Alrighty, hang on. So Bubba Watson. So that was 2012. Uh, Hang on. Let me see. Hang on.
Don't shoot the messenger. Those weren't my words.
Yeah, yeah. Bubba Watson won the year's first major championship on the second hole of sudden death, defeating Louis Oosthuizen. Oh yeah, it was Louis Oosthuizen. Didn't? Yeah, I think I remember that. Then what was? I think his second win would have been Masters. Win.
Yeah, my golf
Yeah, it
knowledge
was 20.
is very
It was
helpful.
20. It was 2014. That wasn't a sudden death, but that's when he That's when Jordan Spieth like made a pretty like solid run in his first Masters, but then like the next year, I believe he won the Masters. Man, I my golf knowledge used to be like super well. Like for a little while, like I could have like named every like major player, like major uh like winner for like a 5 year period. I just knew that I just knew that off the top of the dome. I would have been like Bubba Watson, and then Justin Rose. And man, I need to hop back on that. I need to hop
I'm
back
the
on
same
that
way.
actually.
Anything I say about golf, the information's probably outdated by at least a decade or two.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like if I say something, oh, this player's good, and you're like, they haven't played in 15 years. That's probably right. They probably haven't.
Yeah, but what you know about his prime?
What you know about prime this player? Their
Hmm,
kids are in college.
yeah, yeah.
Oops.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. And I think it should be like a good weekend of golf, a good weekend of MMA, good weekend of college baseball, and Major League Baseball. So like, yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, it's and both State and Carolina have some very important matchups coming up. I know who does
yeah.
Carolina play this weekend?
Wake Forest, that's going to be tough.
Oh,
Like
Wake Forest and NC State.
Wake Forest
Yeah,
just won their series. Well, like won their series against Florida State. And that was pretty.
that was that was we can't say that word on here what they did to Florida State.
Oh my gosh,
It
Florida State
wasn't
was like
pretty.
number two or something like that.
And Wake Forest hung like 16 on them one day and then 11 the next.
Yeah,
And NC State has Louisville, which that's a huge one. That could honestly push State from being a regional 2 seed to possibly into the top 25 looking for a regional 1 seed hopefully.
yeah,
They've got some big ones coming up. Carolina's got some big ones coming up. State and Carolina don't play till like late
May.
May. Of
Yeah,
course, I think State Carolina is always this last or second to last series
yeah,
because we finish with Stanford or Cal.
yeah,
There's still a lot of series left for both
yeah,
teams, but
yeah.
like we're getting into the meat of conference play here.
Hmm.
But no, and you got much else to add?
Nope.
All right, well, I think that'll do it for us here at Tobacco Road and Abroad. Thank you guys for listening in, and we will be back next week with more college baseball, Masters breakdown. Yeah, probably just UFC baseball and Masters at that point. We'll see
Yeah.
if we can pick up anything else, but outside of that, thank you for listening in.